The views and opinions of the Nissan Nation podcast are simply that. They are views and opinions of its guests or hosts. They do not reflect Nissan corporate or otherwise. Now, a DRB and KGB media presentation, the Nissan Nation podcast. Hit it, Kelly.
Recorded live, coast to coast, it's a Nissan Nation podcast. From camping, racing, and all points in between. The NNP is your Nissan Nation podcast. Now start your engines and welcome in your hosts, David, Danny, and Holden.
What is going on, Nissan Nation? From all things Nissan here in Middle Tennessee to the what is BNA and the ATL or wherever. I don't know where we're at. This is your Nissan Nation podcast, and what a crazy time, Danny. We haven't talked to you in a while. It's a new year, and there's lots of things, lots of big time things going on.
Oh man, David, is a beautiful time to be alive. Let me just tell you, I'm a happy camper. As many of my friends and followers know, things are going great, man. I'm kind of bummed I haven't been on any of these podcasts lately. I mean, through no fault of my own. It's not like it's somebody else's fault. But yeah, it's good to be back chatting with you and going over some stuff and doing little recaps and whatnot.
And speaking of recaps, man, you were just showing us some wicked things on the old Instagrams or wherever there. What were you trying to show us?
That was actually a picture sent to me by BTF Fab. Some firewall that just got put in. That's going to go right behind the rear seats. Basically, it's all the sheet metal that goes behind the rear seats on the race truck. The race truck is going to be picked up in T-minus 5 days now.
No way.
We're on the 5-day countdown.
No way. That's awesome,
Yeah,
man. I mean, I
100%.
seen pictures of where he was posting, where he was like making it flex out, like, and everything, just trying to get everything right. And you sent us, or you were just showing us some firewall pictures and stuff, man. Like, it's literally like your dream is super close now, right?
Yeah, Brandon's got a deadline. He's sending me pictures once a week or so, and yeah, dude, I cannot wait. Obviously, I've been talking about this thing since literally the day we started the podcast. I think I don't know if it was our podcast or if we did 4x4 parts or not.
No, we did the 4x4 podcast.
Yeah, that one. I was talking about building a race truck or racing way back then, and she's finally coming home.
Dude,
it's the prodigal son.
Do you realize that was January of 2015 when we started this podcast?
Yeah, no, I know, Dave.
And you used to give me all kinds of crap about how long my SAS took, man. I mean, I just don't get it.
Well, I lost funding halfway into my project, Dave. That was the big problem. I bought a house.
A house will do that. And speaking of funding and all kinds of things, we've got Jim Bob here of what is it, Nashville, Overland? I always get it mixed up, man.
It's Overland, Nashville.
Well, you got to get the most important part in there first, right?
The Instagram star, the man, the myth, the legend himself. Apparently his name's not Jim Bob, but we don't really know what his name is, so we're just going to call him Jim Bob because that's how we know him and that's how we like him.
Well, he's a secretive guy.
What's up, Jim Bob? What's going on, man?
Oh, just hanging out, living the big dream. Just doing it.
Well, we were real excited to get you on here. I think our Instagram live feed kind of coaxed you out a little bit of like the people want to know Jim Bob and they want to hear your voice, man.
Yeah. Well, here it is.
Jim Bob, I know we've heard you a little bit. Holden had a little interview with you over when you were down at Regal, and everybody loves the Jim Bob updates, the Overland advice that we get, and obviously Jim Bob is not who you are 24/7, because everybody's got to take a break from being a big deal. If there's anybody that knows that, myself, I understand that. But real quick, so that everybody knows why you're on our show, and other than the fact that you love overlanding and telling everybody what they're doing right, and maybe inferring other things, why don't you give us a quick lowdown on the actual Jim Bob? What are you driving? What do you do, man? Who are you?
Well, I work in sales for a living. So overlanding, off-roading, camping, being in the wilderness, hunting, that's my escape from the real world.
Yes. I feel you on that.
I happen to drive a Nissan Frontier that I've been slowly building. It's it's been going on for about a year and a half now. Just slowly. One day I'll have a SAS, be cool.
Don't do it, man. don't do it. My wallet says no. Don't do it.
Just tight and swap. The SAS is overrated.
Well, give us a little bit of background, man. Obviously you live in Nashville, heart of Nissan country, but kind of I'm assuming you're from Georgia because I know you go down there a lot. What kind of brought you to Nissan? What was the draw to the Frontier?
Really, just a recommendation from a guy at work.
Yeah.
Went down, and after I had Chevy Colorado before, and some guy ran a stop sign, and I T-boned him. I didn't have a stop sign, so he ran his stop sign at a four-way intersection. I T-boned him, totaled the truck, and I was recommended to go to downtown Nashville Nissan, which I did. Bought the truck. Started listening to you guys. Got in touch with Dave. Who got me in touch with Holden. It's been history ever since.
The rest is history. Started following the big deal. And once you start following the big deal, then you're hooked. Then you're a Nissan guy for life. And I'm sure once you started building your truck a little bit, and you started following some of these amazing Overland guys and seeing some of the amazing modifications and things that they do that are absolutely necessary. It probably spurned you into creating persona non grata. I don't know if that's actually a thing or not. That is Jim Bob.
We're going.
Tell me about that, man.
This takes us back before even being in a overlanding community. I would go on hikes with my wife and do stupid, at the time girlfriend, and just do stupid. Hey y'all, this is Jim Bob, the nature guide, and just doing stupid stuff that made us both laugh. And then one day I was driving down the road and I saw this big truck drive by with huge bumpers, lights everywhere, tow mirrors out. I was like, oh man, okay. So I started filming myself, and after like the fifth take, I had my very first Jim Bob Overland guide video.
Well, I've got to say, Jim Bob needs to update his mounting system for his camera a little bit, because there was a couple videos I watched. It was worse than Danny filming, man. It was like, like shaking.
Whoa, Dave. Jim Bob just needs to upgrade his suspension, not his phone mount.
But yeah, I don't even know how you came across. I guess you probably started following us or something. I don't know. And I remember seeing some of your videos going, what is this guy about? Is this guy for real? Or because, you're in Middle Tennessee. There are really people like that around here, man, that are out there a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know what the question was. I looked at my phone.
He's a diamond in the rough, Dave. That's what he was about to respond, that yes, I am a diamond in the rough. No, Jim Bob, let me just tell you something. Sometimes you come across people, and normally in a normal world, well, no, not in a normal world. In the past, I probably would have met you by now in the past couple of years, because I was getting around. I was meeting all the peoples. And let me tell you, at some point in time, we're going to be like best friends. It's just going to happen. People like us, we're like the sun. And two suns are consistently gravitated. And I feel like if we lived down the street from each other, we'd have a solid bromance going. We would probably spend a lot of time in each other's garages drinking beer. Our wives would guarantee complain about us nonstop, via text messages and Facebook innuendo. So I feel a kindred spirit to you somehow. And I'm really, this was a surprise for me on the podcast tonight. So I'm very excited to have Jim Bob here. I know we have a lot to talk about tonight, though, Jim Bob. I don't want to spend the entire show telling everybody about how much I want to be a good friend of yours from across the country. This is the first time I actually talked to Jim Bob. by the way, for those listening.
And Danny literally, like, I was teasing Danny earlier about this. I was like, Danny, there's a special guest. I was like, do you want to know? And we were on the Marco Polo app, video chatting back and forth. If you haven't done it yet, I love this app, man. It's like texting, but it's just video. And I told Danny, I was like, dude, there's a big deal coming on tonight. And he's like, really? And they totally kind of, him and Holden sort of ignored me a little bit. And I was like, no, there's a big deal coming. And he's like, is it Ivan Stewart? I said, no, dude. For one, Ivan Stewart's a Toyota guy, Danny. I mean, come on. Would I have a Toyota guy on here?
Listen, Dave. I don't care. I hate you, Dave, for even mentioning. You don't put Ivan Stewart in a box. Nobody puts Ivan Stewart in a box. Ivan Stewart that's like saying Michael Jackson is just a pop singer. No, man. Dave, do you understand what that kind of thing would mean to you, to the music community in large?
Well, but I told you, I said it's a bigger deal than Ivan. And you were like, really? I mean, come on. And then, like, before we did our little pre-chat here, and Danny was giddy. Danny, I haven't seen you like that in a long time.
I'm happy, Jim Bob.
Oh, man, I'm glad y'all are happy. I'm glad I could bring a sunshiny day to your heart.
Well, good.
Well, Jim Bob, so before we get deep into the things we want to talk about, tell us a little bit. So you have a 2000, what, Frontier?
Nissan King Cab SV 4x4.
What year is it?
2017.
17. Oh, we're 17 buddies, man. I've got my company truck's the same thing, man.
That doesn't count, Dave.
I know. I didn't pay for that one. But so it's been interesting. You've been hanging out with the Toyota crowd, it seems like, man. And how are they treating you over there?
Well, it's a love-hate relationship. But my little group of guys, there's about 9 or 10 of us. And, you're going to hear shit all day long no matter what. But as soon as you do everything they're doing, maybe not going the deepest that they're going or doing, but, riding the same trails, they're all
right.
very pleased with the Frontier.
Nice. And I mean, I think I'm always amazed, like, you haven't been to Windrock yet, right?
I have not. I missed my chance to go with y'all, and I missed my chance to go last weekend.
Oh, man. Well, I'm always amazed. I'll take people over there, and whether it be an Xterra or whatever, and they're always like, oh, my God, I didn't think this truck could do this. And there was one people, they were just crossing a little bridge, and I was like, I hope any car, I could take a Geo Metro across this bridge. I mean, but they're so surprised that these vehicles can do anything. And, of course, the Overland community is Toyota hardcore, man. So I'm sure they've given you a little bit of crap at first, but once they see the truck can perform, it's like, let's go.
Well, from one of the trips, this is probably back in the summertime, I have a little sticker that one of the guys printed out that says, I identify as a Toyota Tacoma. That sticker still sits there. So,
I like that sticker.
And then 2000, back then it was 2018. It was acceptable.
Yes. Before you put a wall around your vehicle and no longer do that. But so I mean, you've added a camper top, which is heavy on that truck, and I know now you have a big CVT tent. I'm sure you want to give a shout out to Bobby over there, but I mean, you've got some weight on that vehicle, and you've not lifted it yet, right?
I'm about to take the spacer lift off back there and do a rear coil.
Mm-hmm.
Leaf spring, sorry. I went to put a coil on the back of my Frontier.
Sick. Going 4-link, huh, bro? Sick. Natural progression.
Right now I have a one-inch block and airbag with a Daystar cradle, so I can still get the flex and articulation out of it.
Right.
Seems to be holding up. That camper top's about 150 pounds, and then that tent's about 150 pounds. And then camping gear and all that shit. Got a 40, 50-pound dog back there.
So you've got a large Toyota Overlander sitting in the back of your vehicle, basically. You've got a big man back there.
You got a big what?
You've got a large man sitting in the back of your truck, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, you carry camping gear and stuff too. But so kind of with your Instagram page, I mean, you give us motivational things and all that. But you also, I mean, you're also posting cool pictures of your adventures and stuff, man. Kind of, what was the background for doing that? Well,
when I would reach out to people on my personal page, no one would ever reach back out to me. They didn't want to. So I started Overland Nashville, and from there it all formed.
Nice. Well, so obviously we're not the only people that geek out with you. You have to there has to be a few people that love your videos and stuff, man. Have you gotten any crazy DMs or anything of like? I think you did tell me one time you had somebody like kind of trying to yell at you or something, like they didn't think you were for real or.
Man, I've had random, weird, different, all sorts of crap come from it. Mostly good.
Yeah.
Laughs about it, but there's been some stupid crap.
Well, but that's our social media community today. I mean, they're gonna yell at you.
The hater behind the screen. So. Well,
Danny, take it away, man. I know there's a few things. I want to set something up real quick, but take control, Danny.
Take control. Well, I know we got a lot of stuff today to talk about. I want Jim Bob to weigh in on some of the Nissan news that we got going. I mean, the holidays. A lot of stuff went down in the holidays. We all ate our fruitcake. We all ate our turkey. We all did our thing these holidays.
Some of us ate the fruitcake more than others.
Some ate the fruitcake more than others. Some ate old fruitcakes, some ate new fruitcakes. You know what I'm saying?
But which would last longer?
Abounded this year, apparently. Apparently, it was a big deal. I never heard so much about fruitcakes until recently. However, yeah, I mean, we could chat about some Nissan news coming out that happened. But I mean, let's. You know what? You asked about my race truck. I know that a lot of people wanted to know about the race truck, so. So I'll get the update on that, and then we'll go to Nissan news. How does that sound, Dave?
Ladies and gentlemen, this Nissan race truck update was brought to you by
Race Update.
Was brought to you by Daniel Groders and Daniel Groders Incorporated.
So last time I talked, and maybe the last video I posted up, I stuck all. Well, for anybody who follows my YouTube channel at Doug Groot X, I posted a video where I literally just like stuck the fenders on the truck. They were like barely holding on. I like stuck one bolt in them, the front fenders, put the front wheels on, and we kind of did a quick test on see how the front fenders was going to fit. And I stuck the grill on to see how that was going to, if everything was lining up still. The front suspension was all done for the most part. And so that was pretty cool. That was a couple months ago. So and last time I talked to Brandon over at BTF Fab, he was, we kind of talked about when's the truck coming back to me? When is it going to be at full roller status? And we kind of talked about the last little bits that I, wanted to have done. So what we decided was January 20th, which it pushed out 2 days to 22nd because that was when I could go out and pick it up. January 22nd was when I'm picking up the truck, and it's coming back to me. Which is, I can't even begin to explain how much I'm looking forward to this more than I'm looking forward to Christmas.
Well, this is your Christmas.
This is literally my Christmas. It's freaking like, I'm so pumped. I've been watching like YouTube videos on plumbing fuel lines and brake lines and how to wire this and until my eyes bleed because I can't do it in person. So like the next best thing is to watch other people do it and pretend it's me. I'm like watching B is for Build like late into the night, which, by the way, let me do a quick shout out for B is for Build because that guy took two of the things that I love. He took a BMW M5 and a 240Z, and he squished them together into a beautiful
we've
M5Z.
We've become addicted to the show, man. I've reached out to him and hopefully to hear back from him. But
I'm gonna get him on. It's just a matter of time. I'm gonna get him on when he has time. But I like the guy a lot through his YouTube videos, and he's got great content. But anyways, so I've been watching mad just YouTube videos of trying to quench the yearn for my truck, and so recently he kicked it into overdrive on finishing because there's so many little things that he needs to finish in order to get it done. All the major things are done. And now it's just the little things, putting in firewalls, putting in some door bracing, building mounts for all the fenders, putting the front bumper on. It's just lots of little things that aren't, the big things like suspension and roll cage, but that need to be done. And so he's been working his ass off. He sent me pictures like literally 5 minutes ago of the of just like a bunch of gussets that were done and the firewall for the back seats that were done. And so
Danny,
I know he's working his ass off to make sure that everything's done by the time I get it. So
Danny was
there it
geeking
is.
out. Yeah,
Jim Bob's sticking pictures of it. I posted a bunch of pictures on Instagram. If you want to check that out, it's at DeGrootX as well. So if you're following along with that I'm going to take a lot of video. What is it next? It'll be Tuesday of next week. So whenever this drops, it'll be Tuesday the 22nd.
So you're listening Monday.
I'm going to be taking a lot of video and putting up some video on my YouTube channel, and I'm sure there'll be tons of pictures popping out on Instagram for everybody to geek out on. Because really, I post all those pictures because I want everybody to feel the same as me. I know it's not your truck, but at the same time, it's a Nissan race truck, and it's a rare bird in the world of race trucks. So that's where I'm at. I cannot wait to get it back because the first thing I'm going to do is get it running. I've talked to a lot of guys. First thing I'm going to do is plumb fuel system and work out any issues that the ignition may need.
Well, and this truck hasn't started in quite a while. So, I mean, not that it didn't run before.
Started in 2 years. So
we raced it at the California Speedway, and then
we raced it, and then like a week later I drove it up there, or a couple months later or something like that.
Well, that's you got a big thing going, man. And speaking of big things, let's do this. Oh yeah is right. And like it couldn't even get better with having Jim Bob on the show tonight. We've got all kinds of news. Danny, we haven't talked in forever, man. It's like, you know how many sales numbers that we can go? We could spend the next 45 minutes, Danny, just on the Versa.
I don't think we need to do that.
What?
Let's just here. Let me give you a recap of sales numbers. Frontier numbers are up for some stupid ass reason that nobody can solve. They're probably all fleet vehicles. They sold one Xterra. Some random dude has been holding on an Xterra at a dealership and finally sold it. And then blah, 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 Armada Titan, blah, 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 one Juke, and a million Rogues.
Okay.
All right. Sales numbers are done. Let's move on.
Well, in big news, man. So Las Vegas, Nevada. Last week was what? CES, I think is what they call it. Where all the cool gadgets and stuff pop out. They're in Las Vegas. They do the big convention center and stuff. And Nissan every once in a while likes to poke their head in there. And when you've got a big gadget like the Nissan Leaf, you gotta showcase it a little bit, man. And this was supposed to come out a few weeks before, but I think the Gone issue of being arrested kind of deterred this a little bit. But Nissan has unveiled the Nissan Leaf E+. It's gonna be a little bit better electric vehicle, like 226 miles on the thing, bigger, 600 or 620 kilowatt battery pack. I don't know, man. It's a Leaf that can go further. I guess finally all the Tesla people like to poke fun at Nissan and say, hey, our car goes further. And Nissan was like, hold my Chardonnay. My car can go further. So now
they said, can you bring your car to a dealership and get it fixed?
Yes.
What's the price difference on the two?
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. 60 to 80,000 versus a $30,000 car.
How long do you have to wait to get one? 6 months, or can you walk in and get one?
Right. But this has been a big deal, man. So I'm on some of the Leaf pages on Facebook, and it's amazing. Like like Danny, truck pages and stuff, man. They're like hardcore guys that they'll punch each other over like my lift is better than your big tires and all this. Man, you get in these EV pages and it's like I don't even know what they're talking about, man. I don't know kilowatts and all this stuff, man. But I guess they've all been pissed off at Nissan that they haven't had this car come out. So it's out, guys. You can go buy it. You can shut up. Go buy your 226 mile Leaf.
Yeah. They bumped the mileage up quite a bit on that, which is that's closer to where it should be on a car. I think when I saw that, I was like, wow, that's like the mileage on my truck.
Mm-hmm.
Which is you fill your truck up. Well, for me, I fill my truck up like maybe once a week or twice a week or something like that. But that's good mileage for a car. I mean, you could almost take that on a road trip.
Almost.
If you planned it out very good. I'm curious how charging is on it and stuff like that, but it's pretty solid. It's a big movement forward. I mean, it goes hand in hand with the other news that popped out, which is the Infinity. What is it? The QX, and then the let's see, what's the other one called? The Nissan.
No, the Infinity that couldn't get out past the.
The Infinity QX and then the Nissan IMS, which popped out at the Detroit Auto Show. They really pushed the entire new genre of vehicles and like their vision for the future with these two cars. They kind of pushed them as their these cars are the accent pillows of Nissan's future. That's basically what they told us. They said we're going to come out with 8 new electric vehicles by 2022. They're all the vehicles that are electric are going to have this new cab forward design. They're going to have autonomous driving features, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Their vision of the future is, and and I have extremely mixed feelings about this. But I know Dave feels very strongly about the Nissan IMS. What's your thoughts on the IMS, Dave?
Well, for one, this isn't new ground for Nissan. They said like 5 years ago, hey, by 2020, something like that, hey, we're going to have autonomous driving vehicles, and if it's going to be autonomous, it's probably going to be electric. That's probably about the only way to make this thing work. And they've stood their ground. Now, I mean, I like the idea of we're a technology-based society now, man. I catch myself driving and wanting to play on my phone. It's how it is now. The safest thing is let the car do the driving. You punch in a destination, or you basically say, hey, Siri, or hey, Google, or whatever, and it takes you there. But could they have come out with a more boring-looking vehicle? I mean, always concept cars are always going to be the same thing. The steering wheel is never going to look right. I mean, it's never a practical steering wheel. The seats look ungodly uncomfortable, and it's basically a rectangle that I'm not a big fan of. Here, let's listen to this real quick. Let's fast forward.
We're clear.
All right, guys, come on, talk about a car. Yeah. Sorry. This is what happens when you do a broadcast like this and you didn't plan. There it is, the IMS, as they call it, the rectangle with a maximum roof.
It looks like where the traditional
The rectangle with a maximum roof, that's what you think of it?
Yes.
Nissan intelligent mobility and timeless Japanese futurism. It doesn't look like the average passenger car, nor does it look like the latest crossover.
He doesn't look
It looks
Asian.
like something
It's very strange.
completely new, like the Nissan IMS concept you see right here beside me. And it represents a complete reinterpretation of the electric car.
All right, so you heard a French guy
Listen.
that's working for a Japanese company talk about a car that we can't get.
Yeah.
Right. So
I never like when they have guys that have like heavy accents talking about cars.
Oh, it was like Gone in
Like,
2016.
It was in Detroit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to. It's not. I don't. Yeah. Why don't you bring the American dude out to talk about it? So
Yeah, if
that
it was
I don't have to like pay attention to what he's saying.
Subtitles. We don't need subtitles. Man, when Gone did the Titan, dude, it was ridiculous how you couldn't understand a word he was saying. But so, Jim Bob, what is your perspective on electric vehicles, man? I know you love your gas powered Frontier, but would you own an EV car?
It was given to me, yeah. I was seeking an electric car. I don't really have a reason or why. It's just I wouldn't go out to buy one and spend money on an electric vehicle.
Right? Is it just? I mean, I know you're in Nashville, but I mean, your commute probably isn't that far. So I mean, I'm guessing an EV would sort of work for you. But is it just that it's weird technology or what?
It's a pride thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like driving little anything. So I don't know. It's I don't know, man.
Well, Dan, what was your? Because obviously, like I said, it's a Maxima roof with a rectangle. What is your opinion of this car?
So, electric vehicles. I'll start with the electric vehicles.
Wait,
is
there a BMW
a little bit into the?
Is there a BMW mechanic coming in?
BMW bus. I've seen some of these electric trucks that are popping out. That the concept trucks that are popping out that are supposed to be popping out. 2020, I think. I totally forget their names, but I think there's 3 different companies, like the Rivian and the Schmigel Happy and the Jim Jazz or whatever.
Oh, the Jim Jazz was great, man. That's with the center console, right?
Yeah. They sound super rad. The idea,
they don't sound at all.
yeah, the idea of a low weight distribution and the travel that they can get out of the front end due to the lack of basically an engine in the front end causes me to think that there could be some badass performance options out of an electric off-road truck or an electric truck that you can take off-road. So I'm on board hesitantly. I think it's cool, but it's a new technology, and there's a lot of like hurdles that they have to overcome. Mm-hmm. For the Nissan IMS, I love and hate it, Dave, to tell you the truth.
I love the rims on the thing. I mean, usually
there are a bunch of there's a bunch of body lines on it that I love, and then sometimes it's like they built it with really cool body lines, and then they stuck and like they forgot to take a couple pieces off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like the back end has a really, really badass. It's almost got a wide body feel to it in the back. Like you said, the rims are super killer, dude. The rims are badass. I think they're super kind of forward design and they look sweet. The interior, it's typical supercar or not typical concept car with a lot of freaking gizmos and gadgets and looking, it's got like back suicide doors and weird shit like that. So it's supposed to look all like giant and like everything looks like it's hovering inside the car, which is cool, for a concept. But yeah, like I kind of love it and I kind of hate it. I'd like to see Nissan have a really good sports sedan that's electric.
Right.
I don't see anything wrong with that. Tesla's got a really effing cool car. Why can't Nissan have a really cool electric car? Like if the Maxima was electric and it had a little bit cooler body lines that were a little bit cleaner.
Well, I think they don't want to give a ton away with their design to the next gen designs of their cars. And Nissan's always been pretty close with the Maxima. They were pretty I forget what they called the concept of it, but they've always been somewhat close with their concepts. But this one is the thing with electric cars, you don't need a grill. So you don't need to worry about air getting into it or anything. You have you can take a lot of chances with the body lines and stuff. And this, honest to God, man, we'll post some stuff up on our Facebook page, but it's I hate to keep saying it, but it looks like they took a Maxima roof and just put it on a rectangle, man. And they just sort of took a router around it and just rounded it up on the ends a little bit. But it's not exciting. But what was really exciting was when Infiniti came out and they were like, "Hey, Nissan, hold my beer, buddy. We're gonna really up the ante a little bit, and we're gonna show you our concept." And they never showed it. Because they
went to push it out.
It wouldn't come out. It got stage fright and wouldn't come out. So let's see, Detroit.
Well, they got it out, right? It just initially it wouldn't start. Or
no, they never brought it out. They literally did the whole thing, the presentation, without a car being there. So let me read this. Detroit.
Oh, really? I thought they got it out.
So Detroit, and Nissan's Infiniti luxury brand hopes to debut the QX inspiration on Monday at the Detroit Auto Show, but it looks like it had a case of stage fright. Let's see. At the news conference announced the unveiling stated mechanical problems with the vehicle prevented the company officials from rolling it out and being seen by the international media that it had planned for several hours. Despite the glitch on Monday, Nissan's Infiniti brand has a history of rolling out some exotic concept cars. Well, this one's super exotic, right? If it never makes it out, that's like the future of cars, right? You're like, hey, everybody can bring a car out. Let's keep ours back there. Let's make you wonder what we did. But what was funny, they literally brought press in. Why would you ever let press behind the curtain? I don't know. But they brought press and let them take pictures of this car sitting, not doing anything.
Maybe, well, you have to salvage it somehow. You know, I'm sure press was itching just to get a picture of it, no matter what. They probably spent millions of dollars getting that thing designed and debuted with, you know, they probably had all kinds of marketing ideas and stuff, people ready to do that. I'm sure they spent millions getting that thing there,
right?
From the design phase and the marketing phase. So to not even allow people to take pictures, I'm sure they just said, well, come back here and take pictures of it, because there's a bunch of pictures, like nice pictures of it online. You can pull them up. So
it once again is a boring looking rectangle with a little bit higher roof. So there's lots of pictures.
It's not bad, Dave. It's not that bad.
Man, it's like they took and just like look at the front end of this thing. It's got the cool Infinity logo. Then like for some reason like thought they were Ram trucks all of a sudden. They thought, well, let's stamp Infinity on that too in case you don't know the logo. And then Jeep Cherokee. Oh, let me borrow your lights just a minute.
I'm not gonna hate on it that much. It's kind of like a really, really weird kicks, is what I saw. But I think that they were like, they said a lot of stuff about the whole like cab forward design, but I don't see it as much as they talk about it. I mean, there is still so much room ahead of the driver's seat that it seems like, I don't know, the entire electric vehicle seems like it'd be rethought and redesigned in a much cooler way than what they did. It's like they took a car and they made it into an EV vehicle with a bunch of panels.
Right.
So while I appreciate it, it's got some cool, there's a couple lines on it that I like, a couple body lines that I like. The front's weird. I think part of the reason the front's weird is because we're so used to seeing grills and stuff like that. It just looks bulbous in the front. It looks a little bit wrong. So there might be something to that, where the front of a vehicle is not supposed to look like the side of a vehicle or something like that, or the back of a vehicle.
See, you can't like it either.
The front looks like the back.
You can't like it either, man. But we'll quit beating up Infinity, man. They always make. I loved my G35 and the G37s and stuff. They always make awesome vehicles. I hate that somebody probably lost their job on not a vehicle not coming out of the curtain, but it does show a little bit of their design future, and my hat's off to them. They're about like everybody else now, making a boring looking vehicle. But Jim Bob, let's there's a couple things I want to ask you. So you're a truck guy, right? I mean, you said you've owned a couple of them now, right?
Yes, yeah.
So we've got a bunch of truck guys. I mean, Nissan's supposed to release the new Frontier. I got a feeling it's going to be at the Chicago Auto Show in a few months. We've got Ford Ranger coming up, man. What is I know you've seen it a little bit, man. What is your take of that vehicle?
The Ford Ranger? I mean, from pictures, I think it looks pretty sweet. Mm-hmm. Like a Ford. So
it's gonna be at the repair shop.
Well, exactly. So it's a Ford. Very cool body on it. Let me look a picture up of it real quick so I can kind of tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it.
Yeah, I'm curious if you. I mean, me and Danny haven't even got to debate this yet a little bit, and we're going to get.
We've debated. We haven't debated on the show,
right? Well, and we're going to get into this a little bit later, but I wanted to get Jim Bob's his opinion, man, because I was surprised. I can't get into it because I know Danny's going to want to jump in on this, but I want Jim Bob's honest opinion on this vehicle.
Before I skew Jim Bob, before I pull him over to the dark side.
I think I've never owned a Ford. I've never seen a Ford. I've never seen a Ford off-road before.
You never owned a Ford Ranger?
No.
Typical Tennessee boy, Georgia boy. Everybody in Southern California owned at least one Ranger in their life.
What is it?
Whether they wanted to or not.
At the DMV, they just hand you your Ranger and your license, and here you go.
Yeah, they're like, try this out. If you don't like it, we'll lift the front end for you and let you drive it again.
So I feel like the Ranger's just a mix of an F-150, a Raptor, a Toyota Tacoma, a Toyota Tundra, and like the Nissan Navara.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a mix between all these vehicles.
Well,
and the Colorado, shit.
Well, they haven't built a vehicle since 2011 on that platform in the States. So, I mean, it's and this vehicle basically is what they've had their global platform for a little bit. So, but it does have that Toyota feel a little bit. But could you, Jim-Bob, so this is a 4-cylinder. It's a turbo 4-cylinder, man. Could you see yourself driving a 4-cylinder pickup truck?
Well, my Chevy Colorado was a 4-cylinder pickup truck, 5-speed. And no, I could never go back to a 4-cylinder, even if I had an eco diesel, whatever. I don't think I have enough power to really drive a 4-cylinder engine again.
Well,
I'm
Dan,
scared to drive my wife's Jeep. Can't pull out in front of anybody. So let's hear, Danny, what you got for us?
I like the different powertrain options on the Ford.
the different powertrain, the one option.
No, dude, there's like 3 options. Are you kidding me?
No, there's a 4-cylinder, and that's it right now.
Shit, Dave, you need to do your research like I'm about to do right now.
Dan, there's an EcoBoost 4-cylinder, and that's it. Maybe they're getting a diesel down the road.
I thought there was.
They have a 3.5 liter.
No. Danny's gonna.
Yeah. There's more than one option on the engine, Dave.
That's Danny.
Yeah, I looked into it and I don't remember at all.
That Chardonnay's kicking in on Danny and
yeah. Too much red wine tonight, and I think that there's more options on the Ford Ranger. And Dave apparently talks about it in initial. I like the Ranger, Dave. I have a soft spot for the Ranger on account of the fact that I owned like 4 of them in my life. The reason I bought a Nissan is because Ford stopped making the Rangers. And let me tell you, Nissan, I might buy another Ranger because you stopped making new Nissans.
We might have to start a whole new podcast based on this, Danny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ranger Nation or something like that.
That sounds like a weird website.
I believe they're coming out. If they only came out with the 4-cylinder Eco Diesel, or I'm sorry, the Ecotech or whatever they want to call it, there's another option that should be popping out shortly after. Yeah, it's 2.3 EcoBoost, right?
Mm-hmm. And
which is pretty powerful. And there's a 3.5 liter or something like that that's going to be popping out.
I love this. Our audience is sitting there going, Danny, he's wrong. You're wrong, buddy. You're wrong. Danny, there's one motor option in that truck, and that's it. Now, they do like 5 different configurations on what you can get with it, but that's it. And if all the reports are true, changing the oil on this bastard is going to be a pain in the ass. Supposedly, you got to pull the passenger side tire off to get to the oil filter and stuff, and it's going to be ridiculous. But it's Ford. They're going to sell a gazillion of these things, and it's going to scare Toyota.
What do y'all think about the 10-speed transmission it has?
That's pretty cool. I like these new 10-speed transmissions.
Yeah, I'm not. Those don't bother. That doesn't bother me that bad. The transmissions they're doing now.
I think even when you lift it, it's not going to be searching for gears.
Gearing is everything, anyways. When you lift a vehicle or when you add larger tires, so at some point, yeah, that's a problem. But my only concern is the turbo on these things. They Ford, the EcoBoost stuff. It's pretty cut and dry now. They know what they're doing. But it's I know in the Mustangs there was a short power band to it. It was like once you hit $3,000 RPMs, it just like they drop off, like you're in a 4-cylinder all of a sudden. But with a truck, torque is everything. So at the higher RPMs, you're going to make some torque. So I don't know, man. I'm excited to see it when they actually hit dealers' floors, and who knows. But what may make us just start a new podcast is the Jeep truck. What do they call that thing? The Gladiator? Danny knows where this is going. So we, like I said, we're on Marco Polo, and we're always debating each other on who's basically cooler, Danny, Holden, or me. And usually Danny wins out. Danny's he's the Cali guy, man, the SoCal guy. He's gonna win out. But I said, hey, did you guys see this new Jeep truck? And Holden
hold on, Dave. Let me cut you off for a second. Dave, you said, hey guys, I really want to buy the new Jeep truck because I'm super lame and I wanted to get you guys' opinion on it. That's what I remember you saying.
I don't remember it going that way. But so the Jeep Gladiator came out, and what's funny is everybody and their brothers made a Jeep truck from the 4-door truck anyways. But Jeep was like, well, hey, 10 years, it's our turn to start making one. And the idea of it is super cool. I mean, I've owned a Jeep before. It was a hunk of crap, but I've owned one. The reliability, from my understanding of the new ones, isn't much better than the old ones. But the idea of having a truck that you could rip the doors off and just go to town in is pretty appealing to me, Dan. I mean, I don't expect my next purchase is either going to be the new Frontier or it's going to be this Jeep truck. I hate calling it a Gladiator because I just think a Jeep Wrangler truck sounds cooler. But it's interesting, man. And they're saying it can pull almost 8,000 pounds, which would pull my Xterra to Windrock wherever I go. But man, to pull a top off your vehicle, you don't use your sunroof because I guess it's hotter than hell in California. But Dan, out here, man, the idea of taking your roof off and just going to town is awesome.
Jim Bob, can you please set this complete and utter buffoon straight? You live in Tennessee. Do you feel like driving around with your top off, sir?
Depends on who sees me. No. I have owned Jeeps in the past, and I don't think I could ever go back to a Jeep. Having my wife own one with 50,000 miles and already having problems, it's like, yeah, we're never going to do Jeep again. So I can see driving a Jeep around if you just had one to rent for a weekend at the beach or something. I think that'd be pretty cool. But I don't know. Everyone's got a Jeep.
Well, what sold me on this vehicle is, so they did their promotion where they brought it out, the concept truck, and then they brought the Rubicon out. And the lamest model, the Overland Jeep. Normally, you guys name things so cool, but do not jump on the fanboy Overland thing and make the lamest version you can. That almost took me out of it. But so the guy was
that's a Jim Bob version. It's a Jeep Jim Bob version.
We'll just put Nashville, get a sticker and put Nashville above it, and he'd be super happy. But what kind of swayed me to this vehicle right now is they said, look, man, we know everybody, or 90% of the people that are going to buy this vehicle are taking it from the dealership to discount tires, and they're putting 35s on it. And he said, guess what? We designed this truck. Do it. You don't need a lift to put 35s under this vehicle. And I was like, holy cow. Not that vehicle I'm probably taking off-road, but everybody wants a lifted, cool-looking truck, man. And I seen that, and I was like, you know what? Nissan better, like, I don't expect the Frontier or the Tacomas or the new Rangers I don't expect them to play in Jeep territory, but I also want a vehicle that looks cool and I can make it look cool.
We need to go into fabrication work and start building racks and stuff with the Overland edition to put rooftop tents and, different things on. We could, really market this stuff right now while it's, out of the market.
Yeah, we could put
I feel like if I had the gumption to go out and make a bunch of parts for the Jeep, what is it called again?
The Gladiator.
If I was to go out and make $1 million on the Jeep Gladiator, it would be the same as me going out and doing porn. like I feel like that's how low I would have to sink. And my integrity would never allow me to make parts for the Jeep Gladiator.
What? Come on, Danny.
I think it's lame, Dave. I think it's lame. What? Sorry.
No, but why do you think
it's so freaking long? It's just lame, man.
Why? Tell me why it's lame.
What's that, Jim Bob?
Is he trying to dump the Titan?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just I don't like any part of it. It's too long. it's a Jeep, but it's not a Jeep anymore. So it doesn't have the Jeepiness to it. Like the whole point of the Jeep was a short wheelbase Jeepiness. Like, I think what they should have done is they should have come out with a what's the old not the Cherokee, Comanche?
Mm-hmm.
No, what was the old Jeep truck?
Well, there was a Comanche and a.
It was a Comanche, right?
Man, they've had so many names. I can't.
They should have come out with a new Comanche that was like a truck, and it looked just like, you know, they took a bunch of design features from the old Comanche. I think it was the Comanche that I'm thinking about, which was a really cool truck back in the day, which I really liked. And they could have put some of the same like Jeepy features on it. You know, they could have solid axled it like they did, but like to take the Jeep and just make it really long and put a bed on it, I think it looks wonky as shit. I'm sure there's some guys that'll put a $20,000 into a $40,000 Jeep Rubicon and make it super gnarly, you know, but basically they'll take all the guts off of the bottom of it and put axles on it that can handle 35s or 40s or whatever they want to put on it and make it a super gnarly off-road vehicle. But the only thing I'd rather buy a Ranger than that, for sure.
The only thing that scares me about the vehicle is the price, man. And you're going to get into the $60,000 territory for a mid-sized vehicle. So
yeah.
So that's kind of
it's gonna be the bourgeois redneck car, dude. It's like the really well off construction worker that doesn't go off road but wants to look like it or something like that. I don't know.
Well,
I'm a hater.
I don't
Sorry.
know, man.
I'm very, very hater on it. I drank all the haterade this morning about the Gladiator, and that's how I feel.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Oh well, so let's take a commercial break, and you're listening to the Nissan Nation podcast with Dave, Danny, and Jim Bob. What is going on, everybody? Let me talk to you a little bit about Lifestyle Off-Road. What is Lifestyle Off-Road? What do they do? Well, let me tell you, they make custom t-shirts, they make custom graphics, stickers, you name it. They also have their own line of clothing. I wear a lot of it, man. I personally like their designs and what they do and how they support, you know, the off-road community and especially the Nissan community. So if you need something from custom stickers, you know, I love you grandma, whatever you want to put on your car, maybe family reunion t-shirts, maybe t-shirts for your club or event, give them a shout over there at www.lifestyleoffroad.com or check them out on Facebook at Lifestyle Off-Road. Be sure to tell them that NNP sent you. Well, there you go, guys. That was Jim Bob on there. And before that, I want to say thank you to Lifestyle Off-Road for sponsoring this. And if, like the commercial says, we actually use their product. We've got some hats they've done for us. If you get on our Facebook page, direct message us, we'll get you a link to get the hats and all that, shirts, whatever. Luke over there and the guys, man, I appreciate everything they do. And so, Danny, that was Jim Bob, man. That's the first time you've got to talk to Jim Bob.
I like Jim Bob, man. Jim Bob's my people.
What was bad was his rack was bigger than your rack, buddy.
He has a beautiful, gnarly, weird rack.
Yeah, so
I had to hat tip him on his rack because he showed me his rack tonight, and it was
two of them. He's pimping.
Wild. Yeah, I saw one on the wall, and then he pulled one out of the side area wherever he pulled it from, and that was pretty gnarly.
The big bucks were coming out pretty much.
Show me the buck.
That's right, man. That's right. So, Danny, let's we didn't go deep into that, man, but tell me, let's talk Ranger a little bit. So the Ranger is about to debut. Nissan being the sixth mid-sized truck down the line, who somehow keeps selling 7,000 trucks a month on a 15-year-old design. But you kind of were excited by this Ranger. I know we'd talked offline a little bit. Like, you were like, man, I could see myself buying this vehicle. So what is it? Because to me, it looks a lot like the Tacoma. It's got that grill is a very Toyota grill. The inside of it there's nothing about any of these trucks anymore that is exciting because they all have chrome around the air vents. The radio is a big touchscreen radio. Like, there's nothing exciting about it. So give me your opinion on this vehicle.
I totally disagree. I don't think it looks anything like the Tacoma. Secondly, I don't know. I'm partial to Ford. Ford does a lot of things that I really wish Nissan did.
So you're partial to working on things.
Oh, Dave, Ford's decent, man.
I know. I've owned an F-150, man. It's all right.
It is a brand new interior. It's really nice. Like the interior is really nice. If you were to pick up an FX4, it's all leather wrapped. It's not Nissan plastic. Like it comes with like a really nice gloss finish around all the bezels, and it's got a really nice looking center console, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A shifter. I mean, everything about it is. I would say it looks a lot like the Toyota. Inside, it looks a lot like the Toyota. Maybe a little bit nicer, maybe equivalent. I would never buy a Toyota. Kind of on a. I feel like it's kind of like a pretentious buy these days.
Right.
I would buy a Colorado over a Toyota. Just because I'm so anti, like I feel very counterculture towards the Toyota, which is maybe it's a personal thing. I've always been a little bit of a touch of the counterculture, but I like taking something that's a little bit different than everybody else and making it cool.
So basically, you want.
However, I know the Ranger is probably going to be just everywhere.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like the Ranger. I think it looks pretty good. I've seen some of them that were modded. They look super cool when they're modded up, and it's a new vehicle that. I think it's really cool.
The one of it that could excite me is if they did a Raptor version. And I know they do a Raptor version in Australia, but it's still a diesel and it's not that exciting, honestly. But if you were to somehow put that twin turbo V6, the EcoBoost V6 in that truck that they're putting in like the Edge or the Flex or whatever, man. Dude, that would be a monster. Dude, that would rival the big Raptor in excitement. That's the only way that truck right now excites me. But the only thing it does actually do is it's going to push Nissan and these other companies like, oh, the big boys back to play in this playground again. So why Nissan's taking this long, I have no idea. It better be a home run when they bring the next Frontier out. It better not look like the current Navara, and it's not shitting on the Navara because I like that look. I think that's a great looking truck too, but that truck came out in 2014, so it better not be like they did the Patrol with the Armada.
Yeah, the Ranger just, in truth, I feel like the Ranger could have been the Nissan. You know what I'm saying? Like it's close enough to what the Navara looks like. It's not, they're not quite the truck that we used to have with all the square body and stuff, but it's a cool looking truck. And initially, and I'll admit I was wrong because I looked it up. Initially, I thought that there was 2 motor options for it and possibly a third coming. Apparently there is only the one, the 4-cylinder, which is it's like 270 horsepower or something like that, which is, I mean, that's great horsepower. I mean,
ladies
probably
and
a little
gentlemen,
bit different power band.
You just heard that Danny was wrong on the Nissan Nation podcast.
But I can't imagine they'd only offer one engine option in that. 2 things on that is gas mileage is astoundingly better.
Yes.
In the Ford Ranger, astoundingly better with that EcoBoost.
What's that turbo?
And
the turbo is what gets you that, right?
Yeah. And then if they were to offer, a 3 point whatever liter that Ford has in the V6, the turbo option, that thing would be a screamer, dude. Even if they had a non-turbo version, like the what's the engine? The engine that comes in the Mustang, it's like a 300 horsepower V6.
Well, they quit doing that motor actually in it.
Really?
But I think it's the 3.5 is the one they've been
3.5. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, the 3.5. I heard that was coming out. Maybe not. But I think it's just they kind of have a more advanced powertrain options, and Nissan's still running 2004 technology.
Yeah, no doubt on that.
I just wish for it's newer, shinier, better stuff.
Well,
I mean, you can't really compare it to the current Frontier because it's nothing. It's not apples to apples in my opinion anymore.
What's funny is okay, so this is January 2019, and happy anniversary by the way, because we started this podcast January of 2015, and I remember back then us thinking, oh, the Frontier's on its way, it's coming, and so we've done this show what is that? I don't know how, I can't count right now, but it's a long time, and we've been. And I know our audience is like, yeah, you guys been bullshitting us this whole time. No, they had a raggedy version of a Frontier they were going to put out with leftovers from everything, and somebody with some sense said, no, we can't do that. But do you think, like with Ford, why you only offer one option in engine is because you don't want it competing with its big brother. You don't want this truck. You want this truck to steal from Toyota, but you don't want it in F-150 territory. And if you put that V6, a twin turbo V6 in this thing, I don't know, man. The idea of that to me, this lightweight truck seems more exciting than a big full size. Because that's what is it? The 3.5, I think twin turbo is what they're putting in the current Raptor. So
yeah, I think so. Or yeah, in the current Raptor they got a highly tuned one, but I think you can get an F-150 with the EcoBoost in it. So. Yeah, maybe that's their idea. I just find it really hard to believe that there's that throughout this, they bring the Ford Ranger back and they're just going to offer the one option. That's never been almost any of their line of trucks ever has had one motor option.
Yeah, but granted now there's only 27 versions of this one truck that you can buy in typical Ford fashion. There's the XXL.
Yeah.
Schmiggamy schmog. I that's the one downside to Ford trucks is keeping up with it. I'm glad we don't do Ford Nation because we could never keep up with that.
It would be very confusing usually. But I just wish that whether or not it happens, I just wish that it did. You'd think that they could fit a twin turbo V6 in it. That'd be super super rad.
No doubt.
It'd be a great truck. And maybe they'll make the Ranger Raptor like they talked about, and then they'll stick that in there and make the Ranger Raptor they kind of teased everybody about.
I think eventually you will see a Ranger Raptor in this thing, but Nissan it's come out that, and I know inside sources have told us this for a while, but they do have a new motor coming for the little truck. So maybe I gotta it's funny that Ford's taking the lead on turbos. When Nissan and Toyota have owned that market, and Mitsubishi, they've owned the turbo market, and now it's like, well, they don't even do it really, and Ford and them are kind of leading the way.
It's super wild how the tables have turned, and I mean, you're seeing that variable compression engine pop out in one or two models that I feel like they're kind of just testing it in those models. I think it's Infiniti has it, right?
And Nissan, the new Altima.
Does Nissan have it in the new Maxima?
The Altima. But do you think a variable compression engine would work in a truck?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's a different. You're talking about trucks are all about torque, and do you think it seems like it would be very confusing for a motor to, you're telling the computer to
the variable compression is all about efficiency and kind of torque curve, I guess you would say, having the most efficient motor at all times throughout the power band, and being able to efficiently move air, basically.
Yeah.
So I don't see it being a problem. I think the problem with the motor is making sure that it's reliable wherever you use it. That's my thing is, they're using it, but they don't, broad scale use is a whole different ball game than, we have this new patent and it works really cool in all these little motors that we've been testing out here and there. But, on a broad usage across the US of vehicles, like the LS motor has been working for, thousands of years now. with upgrades and whatnot. But
Right.
this is a very new kind of take on old technology. So it'll be interesting to see how reliable that stuff is, or if it's just because it's in its infancy of use, there's still a lot of little problems that they're going to have to work out.
Well, and of course, Nissan right now has a lot of problems they've got to work out anyways with management. Between the stuff me and Holden had talked about with Gone being in jail, which he currently, so we did a podcast the 5th of December, I think it was. The man is still in jail. He hasn't seen his family. Nissan is putting the squeeze on him, and I know it's the Japanese government, but trust me, it's Nissan putting the squeeze on this guy, and they're making sure that that partnership knows who's in charge now. So it's exciting times to kind of like the Nissan brand, man, because there's a lot of changes that are due. You're looking for a new Z. You're looking for a new GTR. You've got new Maxima already out. Altima, the Murano's out. A new Pathfinder is due. You've got a Frontier that is due. And guess what? If they're not just with their heads in the grass, you've got a new Titan. It should a refresh of the Titan. It should be coming out within a year. So, as a guy that likes the brand, man, I know the stuff has pushed these guys to. Nissan they're not like chewing up Toyota territory, but guess what? When you've got another manufacturer now in that playground it's going to hurt Nissan if they don't get a new truck out. So
I agree. I totally agree. At some point you're left in the dust if you don't, it's either move forward or move back. There's no treading water at a certain point in time. And Nissan's kind of, I think they got lucky for a while now. They've treaded water a little bit longer than they probably should have been able to due to the lack of, competitors in the market and being, kind of the low man on the cost totem pole probably. Yeah.
Well, I remember
with all the expensive trucks in the mini market category. 2011,
man, the midsize truck was dead. Everybody said it. They were like, even Toyota's going to quit making them. It's dead. And look at that market now, man. It's back and it's super exciting. Nobody wants a car now. Everybody wants the truck or an SUV. So, and you were talking about the pond. Let's get to our interview tonight. We've got it's kind of a double shot. Our last podcast had an interview from this place, and why not do it again, man? So me and Holden got to talk to our buddy over there in Australia. His name is Kody Jamieson. I found this guy, I think it was on Instagram or somewhere, just posting up all these killer adventures that he was doing on with his Navara. And I was like, man, that's just nuts. Well, for one, Australia is nuts, and I'm a huge fanboy of Australia. Australia, I'm coming for you in a few years, buddy. I guarantee that. But this guy just took off on like a month-long trip, Danny, and just him and I think it was his girlfriend or whatever, they went with another couple trucks. And I guess if to explore in Australia is 18 hours from everywhere. Like there is just no, like, you just can't go, like for me, Windrock's 250 miles. I can just be over there easily in a couple hours. Like to adventure in Australia is an adventure. So I'm going to get to our interview with Mr. Kody Jamieson and something me and Holden did a while back, and enjoy. All right, so today we have a Kody Jamieson. Did I pronounce that right, man?
Yeah, sure did.
And you're not from a normal spot that we normally talk to here in the States. You're from Australia. What part of Australia are you from, Kody?
I am from southeast Queensland, a place in particular called Brisbane, the capital of our state. And it is on the eastern coast of Australia. Very sunny, very rainy at the same time, but it's a beautiful place.
Well, you guys, you're just getting into summertime, correct?
Yes, we sure are. It's already really, really hot here at the moment.
Wow.
We're already getting days hitting 30 to 32 degrees, which probably roughly translates to about probably 80 Fahrenheit for you guys.
Mm-hmm. And so this is, I mean, I would say this is really just starting to get into adventure time for you guys, or is it been? I mean, because I'll play stupid. I know nothing of Australian weather other than I know when it's winter here, it's summer there. That's as far as I know, man.
Thankfully, being so close to the coast and having the beaches we do, we spend a lot of our summertime on the coast. We're allowed to get permits to drive up our beaches, stuff like that. We're allowed to camp, full drive, as much as we can. But in the winter time too, we tend to go further out into the hinterlands and do a lot more sort of the harder full driving and bush camping. It's generally changes because of the weather, but usually in the summertime, beach is the place to be.
Nice. Well, I mean, depending, the beach is where all the bikinis and everything happen. So I understand that,
exactly
man.
Right.
So I kind of came across you. You had posted on our Facebook, but just basically showing some of your adventures, man. And I was like, for one, you've just got a cool looking truck, but two, man, you started sending me all these pictures of I guess you did a month-long trip a while back and just a killer adventure.
Yeah, we took pretty well a month off to go to a region of the north of our state called Cape York, which is the highest point of the Australian continent. In fact, it's where the most northern point is. It's about 10,000 square mile of just bushland, cattle stations, national parks, completely untouched natural beauty, pretty well, and it's accessible to everyone. It takes about 3 days to get across comfortably via the main road, but towns start to become far and few between. We tend to stick more to the old logging and telegraph tracks. They offer a fair bit more adventure, and you get to see some really cool things that not a lot of people can say they'll ever see in their lifetime. But the downside to that is you need to be really well prepared and have some pretty serious gear to get you in and out.
Yeah. So kind of how would you be prepared? I mean, obviously you need a truck, a built up truck a little bit, but when you said it gets scarce for just supplies and stuff. How long do you plan on being out before you need to kind of restock?
So we spent about a year preparing the cars, preparing the things we need, buying equipment, that sort of thing. I've been once before. We did it. We were a fair bit unprepared the first time we went. Never run into any sort of trouble, but when you get into places where you're looking at like a full day's drive between towns, you need to be able to do things like purify your own water, be able to cart your own water. Diesel is a big thing as well. There's not necessarily the best diesel out there, and if you can get it, it's usually almost twice the price of what you'll pay in town. So being able to carry a large amount of diesel is a very important thing. And not only that, but there's not phone service for hours, so either a good sat phone or a location device for emergencies is definitely a must.
Right.
Being Australia, we have a lot of deadly animals. This region's known for the biggest crocodiles in the country, most deadly snakes. You get bitten by a snake in somewhere like that, and you're going to be in a lot of trouble. A lot of them will take only minutes to kill you. Wow. So if you don't have access to a emergency first aid kit, good, well and truly knowledge of that first aid kit, and access to possibly a helicopter for emergencies, you're going to be in a lot of trouble if you do stuff up. And just even the little things, even if you break something on your car and you need to jack it up, you need to have the most thought out processes, because if you don't and something goes wrong, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. If you buy yourself a car falls on you, you're dead. No one will find you. Right.
Well, I guess that complicates things when you're kind of in a smaller vehicle too, because you exploring. And what year is your Nissan?
My Nissan is a Nissan Navara, 2.5 litre diesel. It's what you guys would call Frontier, but we get the diesel version over here. The diesel tends to be a bit more popular than the petrol version. I've pretty well kitted it out for that sort of overlanding adventures, long distance travel and tour. So we have most of the things we need in it at the drop of a hat. All we got to do is sort of chuck our food in. We're good to go. But it's been a great car. They're really popular over here, and mine's been great, super reliable. I haven't had too many dramas. The only issue I had on the last trip was my leaf spring bushes decided they didn't really like the road. Very, very corrugated roads. And yeah, they packed it in, so we had to jimmy up the leaf springs with some ratchet straps just to get to the nearest town so I could order some more. They had to be brought in by a light plane.
Wow. So, and I generally ask this of when I talk to people from your country, how is, like, here in the States for the mid-size, what we call a mid-size truck with what we would call your Navara, Toyota sort of is king. And how does the Nissan rank in Australia with kind of the popular vehicle? Is it a more popular vehicle, less popular vehicle, or?
That's a really funny question because it'll all depend on who you ask. But as an honest question, I'd have to say the Toyota is more popular, more popularly wanted, but I'm not sure they're actually more popularly bought due to their price. Toyota is a fair bit more expensive than Nissan over here. But if you're traveling to any of those sorts of areas, they have a bit of a joke here that they call it Toyota country, and it's 100% true. All the farmers own Toyotas. Most of the locals will own Toyotas, and all the mechanic shops and things in those areas will really only stock common Toyota parts.
Really?
So being a Nissan driver or anything else here, we have a lot of options when it comes to this sort of mid-size full drive range. You actually have to be very self-reliant, your own products, or your own spares and things like that. Because if you don't have a Toyota, you can guarantee you'll pretty much be waiting for most parts if they're ever needed.
Well, I know, like, here in the States, we're so populated with like, I could throw a rock and probably hit the nearest Nissan or Toyota dealership. Now, you're getting north, like, I don't think a lot of people realize that Australia is populated, but it's not. It's pretty centralized where it's populated, right? Kind of where you're at, and then you get to Sydney and a few other towns, and then on the west coast, there's a fairly large town, and in between, it's kind of hit or miss, right?
In between, there's really not a hell of a lot. Small farming towns, a few mining towns. Australia is widely known for its resources in coal and gold, iron ore, and I know a lot of those towns are boosted by those industries, but as per se large inland towns, there's really not that many. Most people reside to the coasts.
Right. So like you were saying, so if you, I would even think as a Toyota person, if you get out in some of these places, like if you need something, you're definitely waiting on a shipment or something to come in to bring what you might need.
Yeah, you'll definitely be waiting on a truck or a plane if you need parts specially ordered.
Well, so kind of tell me what brought you into the Nissan family? Was it the price, or was it just you like the vehicle?
Originally, my car, or my full drive, my truck was owned by my father, and they didn't want it anymore. They said, we don't want it anymore. So I went, okay, that'll work. Bought it off them, and then from there on, started joining all the Facebook groups to do with our car. Met some great people, and they started getting me into the whole idea of full driving, touring. And I was about 16 at the time when this all happened, and just from then on, it's been a downward spiral.
Yeah, usually it's a sport of that's going to cost you more than it's going to give back. It seems like the price of to lift it, to do everything just to get where you want to be it's always so expensive. It seems like, and definitely a wallet drain.
That's right. It's not exactly a cheap pastime or hobby. But when we've got a country that's as big as ours with so much to do and see, it's by far one of the best things you could do.
Right. So So you said you've tricked yours out just a little bit, man. Can you kind of go over? I mean, I'm looking at pictures of it, but to our listening audience, can you just kind of give them a rough idea what you've done to your truck?
Okay, well, I got BC Products front bar, AAA bash plates that go from the front bar, cover all the radiators straight down to the back of the transfer case. AAA fabrication snorkel and airbox. Here we run a lot of the time stainless steel 4-inch snorkels. They're very popular here. They look great and sound awesome. So that's why we do that. The roof platform, the sliders, the rear bar, and the tire gate were all made by myself. That was just something I did after work. Fitted a Harrop E-locker to the front diff. I've got Monza bucket seats, Unit and UHF. The rear canopy and rooftop tent rack is all custom, made by a good friend of mine, Kyle. Had the canvas done, made sure that was all to spec. Come out really good in the end. King's rooftop tent. Then going into the suspension, they're 3-inch Dobinson MRR shocks, remote reservoir, with the AAA body lift and King's front springs with the Dobinson's rear leaves. I've got 9,500 pound worn winch, Intelliquip dual battery power box system, custom solar and wiring done from my good mate Tim at 4x4 Customs, AMP 35-inch by 12.5-inch mud terrain tyres, dynamic sun raisers, and I have a set of PSR front custom wide quarter panels, which get the wheels covered a little bit more. The police over here generally don't like our wheels sticking out of our guards.
I was about to ask that because us in the States, when we hear kind of, for us in the States, like, it's a dream. You guys live in a dreamland, it's always what you can't have, I guess. And when we see like where you guys get to explore and how much land you have to explore, it's always, oh man, it's got to be the best. But then there's so many restrictions on what you can actually do to your vehicle. So, and it seems to, from town to town, vary, right? So, I mean, some places get away with a little more than others.
Yeah, that's right. Generally, our towns that aren't on the coast, it's usually the ones on the coast where most of the people are the ones that tend to get sort of smashed by a Department of Transport and Highway Patrol. We're very heavily scrutinised over the modifications we do to our cars, and we wish every day that we could have what you guys have. But unfortunately, it's the law, and there's not really a hell of a lot we can do about it to change what we want. But it is starting to look up for us. We just had a huge defect blitz happen through our state of Queensland, and a lot of us full drivers all got together and actually started rallying with our local politicians, and they actually ended up moving the law for us a little bit to allow a little bit more height in our cars. But other than that, they weren't. It's all baby steps at the moment. They're doing a really great job though in support of us, and unfortunately, with our beautiful beaches and hinterlands and things like that, everyone wants to be out there in the weekends, and if no one can legally drive their cars that are set up for doing that, unfortunately, it's going to kill our tourism industry. Right.
Well, I've got Holden, my co-host, on the line here. Holden, can you hear us?
It's cutting in and out a little bit.
Yeah, I can hear you, Dave. Yeah, you're cutting in and out, but I can hear Kody really good.
All right. Well, Kody, I've got Holden here. I'm gonna let Holden ask you a couple things.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry about that. Dave told me 11 my time, and it's 11 o'clock my time, and I guess y'all have already been going. But just listening to you, man. Sweet setup. Like, some things I want to change. Dave, can we change some of the things we call our stuff? Like, instead of skids, can we call our stuff bash plates? Just because I think that sounds so much more badass.
Hell yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and put in that change. Everyone in the States, we're all going to change over. We're going to stop calling them skids. We're going to call them bash plates. But Kody, one of my questions just would be, is there, because we're talking about modifications and everything, is there one specific modification maybe that you see guys do in the States that maybe down in Australia, you're like, man, I'd like to do that? Or is there something where it's like, why in the world do y'all do that? Is there one big modification that maybe you're like, I don't get why you guys in the States do that? Or is there something where it's like, man, I wish we had something like that?
Where do I start? For example, your pre-runner setups. If I could have something like that over here, I would jump for joy. Long travel suspension, wide kits, custom bar work. I love that. I love that whole scene that you guys have going on over there. And I originally started building my car in that sort of direction. But when I started to get a bit more into the touring side of things, I realized it wasn't exactly practical. So I had to sort of change it a bit, but I still sort of stick true as best I can with the wide quarter panels and the tire gate, remote res suspension. Spent a lot of time and money getting the suspension riding good, and but that's paid off in the end.
Yeah, definitely. No doubt. From your setup, it sounds like a just awesome built rig. Is there, I guess, anything in the future? Like, what's maybe your next big plan? What's something you got coming down the pipe? Whether it's something you're currently building or looking to build, is there anything real big that you're wanting to change? Or you say, hey, I'm pretty happy with the setup from here on out. It's just kind of fine tweaks.
From here on out, I don't think much drastic is going to change to it. I've just bought a new house, and it's got a really nice shed attached to it, which I finally now will have my own space to get in and build it. So there'll be some changes happening soon. I want to change the whole tire gate system so I can hold 2 spares rather than just 1 spare tire. Maybe integrate into some jerry can holders, some fuel tin holders. Maybe a larger fuel tank, aim for a 150 litre diesel tank. Other than that, I don't see a major amount happening until maybe I go buy a different car. But other than that, I think that's going to be it for now.
All right, yeah. Well, I mean, you say I don't see anything major, but we're talking about changing fuel tanks, sizes, and things like that. A dual tire setup. That just goes to show the difference in some of the wheeling between guys who maybe do it here in the States and over there, because there's definitely guys who consider those pretty major changes. So I think that's one thing that's really cool about the way y'all do it. Because I know we just got done doing an episode this week where, we're looking at the patrols in Dubai and how a lot of those come with already sub fuel tanks where a flip of a switch and you got an extra tank, and how that's kind of normal just with the type of driving everyone does over there. So I think that's one thing that I envy. Where I am in the southern part of the States, there's not a lot of just giant parks where you can just drive for days on end and, do a whole camping trip, kind of like what you've done. So I know me specifically, that's one thing I'm looking way down the road maybe doing, but something where I just take the vehicle out west and just camp out of it, kind of like you've done. I think that's such a cool thing. Is there any wheeling you've ever seen here in the States, any parks or any spots where you're like, man, I'd love to get somewhere like that? Because I know I see pictures of Australia and I'm just like, man, I would love nothing more than to go do something like that for days on end. So I got to imagine maybe y'all see pictures of guys doing it here where you're like, man, that would be really cool. If I ever got to take my vehicle to the States, I'd want to go there.
Yeah, all the time. My ultimate goal one day was to, whichever car I have at the time, get it sent over on a boat and just do a months upon months long trip of the States, just go all the popular places. I'd love to get down and check out Baja one day and go hopefully spectate the King of the Hammers race. That would be excellent.
That's awesome that you've heard of King of Hammers. I mean, it's a very popular.
What was that? Sorry,
thing. I said it's awesome that you've heard of King of Hammers, but because it is a very popular thing here in the States. But I wouldn't have ever thought that Australia would have thought about that.
That the scene is really heavily followed over here. We have a series called Tough Truck, which is very similar, rock crawling and high speed racing, and it's brilliant for us, but it's such a small scale compared to what you guys have. So I think pretty much anyone who's got anything to do with that scene would kill to get over there to see that one day.
Well, I want to get into your where you just came from, because you said you had done a month-long trip. Can you kind of give us an overview of what you did? Because I know you went into some, I would consider, historic spots during World War II, stuff like that. Can you kind of just give us an overview?
Yeah, sure can. So we left from Brisbane, travelled. I probably have to use kilometres here because I'm not exactly sure of the miles translation. Travelled up about 1,000 kilometres which was a full 12-hour day drive to a little town north called Mackay. From there, we kept going up to Cairns, which is the biggest town in the north, sort of thing. It's not much more that's bigger after that. And then once you get to the other side of that, you're pretty well completely in the wilderness. We then did a track called the Kreb through the Daintree rainforest. I don't know if you have heard of that, but it's one of the biggest rainforests in the world.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful, beautiful part of the world. Some of the biggest crocs I've ever seen, though. And come through there, so you break off from rainforest straight back out onto the coast. Keep traveling north, and it starts to get really outbackish, like the general sort of, I guess, everything you would have ever been told about what Australian outback looks like is what it turns into. You have huge big cattle stations and native Aboriginal land, and you can travel all through that. Lots of, that's where you really start to see a lot of animals, stuff like that. It's heaps of kangaroos, koalas, you know the lot. We even come across one night a snake eating a bat. It dropped out of a tree and it grabbed a bat and was like devouring it right in front of us.
Is that one of the
road.
pictures?
Like,
That's
wow,
one of the
that
pictures.
is really cool. You don't see that sort of stuff in town.
Yeah.
And once you travel along more, you sort of start to see the relics of World War II, as it was a major part of Australia's World War II operation, that particular area being so close to Papua New Guinea. Lots of crashed planes, Beaufighter and DC-3 planes, and was also part of America's forward operations against Japan in the war in the Pacific. And the history is still there from that, the old airfields and the early warning radars. They're all still there. Bunkers, fortifications all line the coast. And thousands upon thousands of rusted out 44-gallon drums that were used for fuel. So there's still plenty of signs there of the history of World War II. You can even travel along some of the old telegraph tracks and things like that. There's one in particular that's quite famous called the Old Telegraph Track, a very original name, and it was built in the 1800s, and it was at the time the only line of communication between the far north and everywhere else in Australia. And even now, traveling the track, the old telegraph poles are up there, and it's about 75 mile long of just straight full drive track, and it is a great drive. Some of the deepest creeks that I've ever come across and driven across there. We'd one called Scrubby Creek, and we dropped into that, and it was pretty well lapping at my windscreen trying to get across. So I was just hoping so badly that my snorkel was sealing and no water was getting mentioned, because that would have probably ruined the trip. Would have been a nice trip home to Brisbane on the back of a tow truck, which would amount into the thousands of dollars. So it's really not somewhere you want to stuff up. Right. If you know what I mean?
Well, is that area too? Is it the water buffalo that they have a issue with there? Because I remember hearing there was some invasive sort of cattle that
we have a state called the Northern Territory, which borders Queensland, and it's pretty much a whole state of outback scenery, and
right.
that's where they have the trouble with the invasive water buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Not too much the Cape York side. I know they have been seen there. I've never seen one myself, but they do reside in the far north of Australia. Yeah, that's certain.
And so, pardon the I guess I say stupidity, but because I know so little. I mean, I know a lot about your country, but in the end, when you want to talk to somebody, you figure out I don't know what I think I know there. But so please,
sorry, you're breaking up again.
Please, Australia listeners, please, if we sound like the silly Americans asking some of these questions, please forgive us, because we love your country. So does the governments there protect these areas that you're in as far as the World War II scenery, or is it just the left to rot?
Yeah, well, a lot of it has actually, a lot of the known, let's say, the plane crashes and things like that, those wrecks are all preserved. They've got fences around them and, signage with information and things all about it. Maintain roads so you can see it. What we tend to find, though, is when it comes to the national parks, for example, which I'm not exactly sure what you guys would call the equivalent of that in the States, but a national park is a government-owned land where you can't hunt or you can camp. They'll have set out camping sites. You pay a certain fee to the government, and you have pretty well all access there. But issue we found with the roads, for example, where if a tree falls across it, they don't cut it up. The road just gets made around it, and you end up having long winding roads of nothing really. But as for when it comes to the history, that's all very well preserved and looked after. They take graffiti, for example, as a serious crime, which is good, because no one wants to be checking out on the World War II history and then they're discovered by an idiot who's graffitied the place. So Thankfully those sorts of areas are really well policed. But when you tend to get into the national parks and things like that with the roads and stuff, a lot of the time you end up having to find yourself clearing the roads, as that particular area, the far north, will have a decent rain season each year where you can be, if you're in there, you're probably stuck in there for about 6 months, and they will often close the parks off. So if you're going anytime soon after the parks reopen, you probably expect a bit of a slog through the bush there to try and get through there. Right. Chainsaws a must. Yeah.
Well, hold. I'm going to let you ask the last question, man. And
man, you're putting all the pressure on me. Last question. There's so many cool things that I've heard. I mean, you're talking about, just the river crossings and really having to do that. It just sounds like off-roading. How do I put it? It's not just something that, obviously there's guys who just do it on the weekends, but it seems like there's a whole much bigger, more experienced scene, because some of that stuff you're talking about, having a lot of guys here in the States, they just think snorkels exactly that. It's meant for crossing water. They don't know all the sealing you have to do and things like that. So I just think how do I put it? The whole off-road scene over there seems to be guys who are a lot more experienced, but also it's just a lot of different wheeling. So y'all are much more prepared. So I guess my question would be, is that something that you kind of see? Do you think maybe, and I don't take this like, hey, if you don't say y'all are more prepared, anyone's going to get offended. But I think, well, how do I word this question? I guess my question is do you think y'all are just more experienced just because of the type of off-roading y'all might do, the more overland, you obviously, like you said, you got to be even more prepared because you're talking about a tow truck back of thousands and thousands of dollars. So is the off-roading like you do, is that pretty normal for a lot of guys out there where they're doing these bigger treks like this, or is it a hobby where you're starting to see a lot of just guys who maybe do it on the weekends and really aren't that experienced?
That's a really good question, actually. We have a lot of different scenes. So one I'm more into is obviously our touring. So that's the idea of being self-reliant enough to go as far as you can, And instead of just doing river crossings and hill climbs and things for the hell of it, you're doing it because you need to get somewhere. And I think that's the major difference. We have guys who build insane four-wheel drives over here that need to be trailered in and out, otherwise because they're just not road legal. And they'll do the huge rock hopping and rock crawling and climbing and stuff like that. And they tend to be a bit more of the weekend warrior sort of scene. And we have parks dedicated to that where you can just camp, you can drink and barbecue and go full driving and do all that sort of thing. Just some wild parks. But we tend to fit more into the touring, which is have a fully self-reliant vehicle, the gear to get in and out, the gear to get yourself in and out of an emergency, and ultimately be able to go places where not a lot of people will say they're ever able to go. I know the Cape York trip is a huge feat and a lot of people do it each year, and but it can be dangerous at the same time. So a lot of people are scared off by that fact, but at the same time, if you're going to be scared off by the potential danger of it, then you're sort of looking at the wrong hobby. I think there's dangers in everything. So I think the main difference is with maybe the American scene or the things we see over here anywhere, that you guys tend to build your stuff a hell of a lot bigger, but it seems to be on a scale that the things you do are so much wilder. And I don't know if that's due to the parts and cars you have access to over there, but everyone over here is just in absolute envy of what you guys can do. So as to say that the scenes are different, I'd say 100% they're different, but at the same time, the core ideals are there.
Well, man, I really appreciate you. This was sort of a short notice to get you on here, and I really appreciate you taking the time with us. And is there any kind of, do you have an Instagram or anything that people can follow your adventures? And is there maybe on Facebook or something?
I do. I have an Instagram. It's fairly simple. It's just Kody Jamo, KODY JAMO _58, and most of it's just pictures of my cars. I have my Navara, and I've got a 350Z as well. That's what I tend to drive around the town in. Nice. But yeah, I'll post up most of our pictures and stuff like that from our trips, our weekends away, and that's probably the best place to follow us all. No Facebook page in particular. All
right. Well, and for Holden over there, Holden, I'm glad you popped in on this, but I really, really do thank you for your time on this, man. This has been awesome.
Oh, thanks for having me on. That's awesome. I've never had the opportunity to do anything like this before.
Well, nice, man. Well, maybe
man. Yeah, it's definitely super cool. I know Dave's a huge fanboy of Australia. I got a soft spot for Australia. It's I was in the Marine Corps station in the Far East and everything, and I did one short little deployment, if you will, to Australia. And like, I was telling someone tonight about it, like just the whole country, the people, y'all are super awesome, just super friendly. And I told him one thing that I appreciated about it is like, at least where I was, the Australians were like, fucking Marines are kick ass, and they'd be the first ones to buy you a beer and everything. And it'd almost be like, they'd be like, man, y'all had our backs in World War II. Like, because so when you're talking about, seeing these scenes, seeing these things, it's just super cool. Because to y'all, that's still a part of your culture. That's still something y'all remember. Because I remember being a 21-year-old, 8-foot tall, bulletproof, thought I was the king of the world Marine. And these guys are like, oh, thanks a lot, because thanks for your service. And, y'all had our backs in World War II. And I'm like, bro, that was like 60 years ago. Like, you don't have to buy me a beer for something that happened 60 years ago. But it just goes to speak for the whole people there. Y'all are just super cool people. And, yeah, I know Dave's a huge fanboy of Australia and wants to get over there someday.
No, the two countries have a good friendship, which is really good. We have family over there, so I often been over there twice now to visit. I absolutely love the place. I've got to go back again someday.
Where were you at here in the States?
I have family in Oregon, and in California. So we didn't unfortunately get up to Oregon due to a snowstorm, but we went through California visiting our family. We have family in Bakersfield and Ventura.
Oh, nice. Well, if you've been there, you've seen a big chunk of America just in California.
It would be good to actually be able to do a full country tour, though, with our own car, be able to do all the full driving and just check it out from your guys' point of view rather than looking at it in cool videos and things like that.
Well, the same here, man. Because we, like Holden said, I'm a big fanboy, but I think most of the real off-roaders here in the States are fanboys of your country, man. So, Kody, I appreciate you coming on tonight, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me on. Hope I didn't keep you up too late.
Oh, it's perfect, man. Thank you. All right, guys, so if you like that, man, be sure to check out Kody's pages and stuff. I think he mentioned it on there. And, give him a like, man. Young people that can go build a truck. Like, he's Nissan through and through. He's got I think it was a 350Z. He's got his Navara. Just epic, man. If I could do it all over again, no, I wouldn't change anything. But anyway, so Danny. I'm glad to have you back, buddy. It's been a while since you've done a full show with me.
It's been too long. I'm happy to be back. I'm glad we got this show done. It was a great interview. Appreciate listening to that one. That was good. And I'm glad we had Jim Bob on. Finally be able to chat with a kindred spirit.
We couldn't have Holden on, so we might as well have the next best thing,
Yeah. The Holden effect, we didn't need that effect tonight because we had the Jim Bob effect.
That's right. Well, I want to do a couple things. So I've been pushing it on our social media pages. And, of course, go follow Danny over there at DaGrootX. It's DaGrootX on all the socials. Give Danny a like. I know you're posting all kinds of cool videos of your truck. What is your team page for your truck?
Grunt Force Racing on Facebook if you want to check that out as well.
And, of course, down the road, there's going to be all kinds of cool stuff for that. But if you've been following us on social, I've been talking about it. YouTube, guys, it's kind of the future of what we plan on doing with the podcast, man. Some say we have faces for radio, Danny. I say no. We've got faces for YouTube, buddy.
We have YouTube faces to the max.
But we've had this YouTube page forever. And we sort of do something. We did when we took your race truck out to California Speedway. We raced it around. We got video of that doing that. We did.
We have some cool videos. I checked it out the other day. There is some pretty good videos up there of us tooling around doing some NNP stuff. So yeah, check it out and subscribe because this year is going to be full of lots more really cool content. We have some really good. We got some big plans for this year. So check it out. Subscribe to it. Hit the little notification bell. That way, when we do pop something out and you see what's going on. Yeah,
you want to be first for what we're releasing, man. But we've got first video is going to be a review. It's a couple-year review now on my Titan, kind of a long-term review, and I'm going to give you some pluses and minuses about the Titan, things I love, things that I would wash and change. I've also got the podcast is sort of moving. Since we're breaking into YouTube, you've got to have a studio for that, right? So I'm converting my garage kind of into the podcast studio and our little YouTube studio, and it's not going to change much, but little by little, we're going to do videos on how to actually set up a garage. So there's some stuff like that, some user stuff. I know we've had all kinds of people asking questions about that of hey, how do you set up a garage? And it's like, well, it's kind of hard to explain, but let me just show you. But speaking of that, Danny, let's get into a couple. We've had some questions, and
we had some good questions this year. Finally,
this year. Well, we can say that
it is this year.
You can actually say this year, Danny. But let's see. I'm trying to pop in. Let's see.
I know Kody had a question about some of the most used tools in the garage, and he said he didn't want to hear about jacks and jack stands and stuff like that.
So what you're saying is jacks are off the table.
Apparently, jack off the table.
Okay.
Is what
okay.
the
So we're not gonna
Cody said it, not me.
We're not gonna pump that topic.
So some tools that I find really, really useful. Well, one is always going to be the most useful tool in an entire mechanic's toolbox is the pocket screwdriver.
Nice.
One side has a magnet, one side is a very small flathead screwdriver. And if you don't have one of these, go to Amazon or eBay and just pick them up. They're just put pocket screwdriver in. And I'm telling you, if you're ever going to do anything in the interior of your vehicle, and even a little bit of stuff under the hood, those things popping clips on electrical connectors, grabbing nuts that may have fallen in crevices, just having that little magnet there is one of the best. As a professional mechanic, it is one of the best tools. Also, hook tools, or some people call them dentist tools. Those things are so clutch when there's not a lot of room or you need to get panels off inside of a vehicle. Those things are actually, I use those all the time. And when you're doing some of the more finesse work on a vehicle, if you just need to pry something a little bit, there's usually kits. There's like 3 or 4 of them. And they're usually you get ones that are a little bit longer. One has a hook. Sometimes you can use that to grab stuff, whether it's a bushing or something like that. One is has a little S at the end, and one is just like a point. Those are some super gnarly, effective tools. And of course, the most effective tool that you can use if you are an experienced mechanic is the impact drill with a 3/8 drill bit, quick release drill bit. I use that so much on basically everything I do. It can make your work go 7 times faster if you have an impact drill.
Yeah, I have to say that the impact has been. I don't even use the heavy duty one for taking lug nuts off or anything. But just you're definitely right. The impact. I mean, it's good for everything around the house. You name it. Honest to God, just having a decent screwdriver set, and I'm not talking to one screwdriver. I'm talking to multi-size, because you get them fine Phillips. I mean that's pretty handy. A big thing for me is just a basic ratchet set. You don't have to go out and get the Craftsman 1,000-piece whatever and think you're a mechanic, man. I've done teardowns on trails with one of those little 50-piece ratchet sets that'll get you, pretty much everything you need. It's a Japanese vehicle, so you're going to need a 10 millimeter, which you're going to lose. You're going to need a 14, a 17, and a 21, and that's about all you're going to need out of that anyways. But so let's get to another question. We've got Mr. Ed, I'm going to butcher this, Fevoid, and he says, I'm currently a Toyota guy. Ooh, I like this already. But said I've wheeled hard in the past before kids, and I'm getting the itch to build a rig. He said, I'd like to hear y'all discuss a family of 4 Frontier or Xterra, which is more comfortable for a 4 to 5 drive to an off-road event and back. My kids are 9 and 13. Is the Frontier seat good enough for a road trip, or is the Xterra better? Blah, blah, blah. Get on. It's FYI, this will be my daily driver and off-road truck. No extreme off-roading, but medium trails to get me to spots to watch the big guys break. Danny, you've owned both now, and I
have some very, very in-depth advice on this, because I've thought about it a million times. And I had an Xterra. I have 2 children that I've off-roaded and camped extensively in both vehicles. So I would say that if you were going to buy a Frontier, you have to get a rear cover for it. Not a tonneau cover, but a camper shell for it. Off-roading with an open bed has proven to be a real pain in the ass. As far as rear seating between the Frontier and the Xterra, it's almost identical. There's really not a big difference as far as leg room and comfort. I have 9 and 11-year-old girls right now. The most times when I was off-roading, they were 7, 8, 9, and etc. But I liked the Xterra more. It didn't have quite the space, but I could make do if I put a little bit of roof rack on it. Or if I had a rooftop tent on the Xterra, it was a little bit easier. I think I preferred the Xterra though. The biggest deal is when you're out wheeling around, dust gets into everything in a truck, and if you don't have like a camper shell on it, it's open and getting into things. Yeah, you have a lot more storage, but when you have more storage, you end up bringing a lot more crap that you don't need. So I would say pare your stuff down better. Use the roof rack if you can. Get an Xterra, slightly shorter wheelbase too. And go that route. That's my opinion. I kind of wish I could get rid of my Frontier right now and go back to an Xterra with my wife and kids.
And he said
however,
this,
I have an extra boy now, and now that's not as feasible.
And you've said this multiple times. It's not like this is some new thing. Like you are an Xterra guy through and through, and like that vehicle. And it probably for off-roading, it is a slightly better platform. I will say, in my opinion, my Pro 4X Frontier was probably my favorite vehicle I've ever. Wasn't the most practical thing. Like I've got an off-road Xterra that I can go beat up if I want to, but just as overall, I had more fun in my Frontier. It sits 4, great. 5 is, do you want to squeeze? I don't sit back there, so why not? But like Danny said, there is the downside of the truck is hauling stuff, but there's also the plus side of that truck is hauling stuff that you don't want in a vehicle, whether it be just daily use of garbage cans or whatever, you don't want to put your family around. There is the plus of that. Either one can be built pretty cheaply. You can put a small lift from Nistec on there on the Gen 2s. I don't know, Danny, under $300 or $400 pretty quickly. And you're ready to go.
Yeah, you can spacer kit it for $300 or $400. I'd suggest doing a minimum of a Bilstein or a Mark 84 front suspension on it, and at least an Adaleaf. But you can get into something like that, especially if you do it yourself. You can get into something like that for a very decent price, and that'll definitely get you through that and a good set of tires and a little bit of armor will get you through most trails.
Yeah, and once you put a little bit bigger lift on there, you can put 33-inch tires, and you're good for about anything you want to do. Hell, I wheeled 32-inch tires on my Frontier and never really had. I would have liked to have the taller tire, but it didn't ever bother me. I did everything I wanted to do in that vehicle. So kind of comes down to your personal preference and those couple things of, do you want a dirty bed, all your gear can get in dirty or whatever. Let's see. What else did we have there? We've got... Well, now I've lost my questions, Danny. Where did they go? Danny's over there.
You were so prepared.
I was prepared. And then we got Jim Bob on here.
I'm posting about our show on Instagram right now while you're looking at that.
You're letting the people know? Because the people want to know, according to Jim Bob. Holy cow, where did my questions go? I know Danny's probably over there looking at pictures of your race truck, aren't you, Dan?
A little bit.
I knew it, man. I knew it. It's all right. It's all right, Danny.
I'm trying to look them up with you, man.
So this intermission was brought to you by Nistec Lifts. If you need anything to lift your vehicle, your Nissan Frontier, Xterra, or Titan, give Chris and the guys over there in Colorado a shout. If nothing else, they give you great advice and kind of put you in a direction. And they have all kinds of different price points for what you might want. That's the thing with lifting vehicles. You can do it cheap, but there's a downside to that. The ride's probably not going to be as comfortable as you'd want, or But the plus side is it was cheap, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there they are.
Dead Space Zone.
I found them. I found the fruitcake, Dan.
All right. I found the fruitcake. All right.
Let's see. No, I'm not answering you, Zach Wilkinson. Let's see. Austin Schmidt, our buddy who won the shirt last time for his video question. He said the VK swap is running rampant amongst the Frontier and Xterra crowd. Once that dies down, what do you think will be the next mod will be for the popular and takeover of those vehicles? I think the next mod for those vehicles will be the Metal Crusher. It's kind of I think the VK swap is kind of the ultimate. Like, where do you go past that? Sassing a Gen 2.
I got ideas.
Sassing a Gen 2 is cool, but like the one isn't practical. You go to do a Gen 2 and it's super not easy or practical to do. So
I think we'll see a little bit more long travel kits going on.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we'll see a little bit. We might see a few more of those.
Nice.
And I also think we'll see more Titan seats going in.
Ooh.
I know Angel put a Titan seat in, and it was pretty badass. It had a really nice. It was super nice.
Nice.
So I want to say we might. I don't know if that's going to be the next big thing, but I have a feeling we'll see a couple more Titan seats going in.
Well, you know what's weird is like, okay, so we talked to Driven Desires like 2 years ago, and they had already done a few. It wasn't brand new when we talked to them, but it's like this past fall. It's like everybody went, oh, yeah, I need to put a V8 in my Xterra or Frontier.
Yeah,
man.
there's got to be 20, 30 guys that did it within the last 6 months.
All of a sudden, like, that's the thing to do, man. So, and, of course, you know, our buddy that we interviewed that did his in his G35, like, that motor can go in many, many things. So that's been huge. I mean, that's like when the Titan swap came out, when the truck first came out. So let's see.
We may see some big performance upgrades on the VK56 as well. You know, people drive them and they're like, "This is awesome." And then I know there's a guy named Pedravic Jarvis or something like that. Have you seen him? Pedravic Jarvis or something like that?
I know that name.
He's building intake manifolds for the VK.
Nice.
P90 intake manifold or something like that, where it's all ported and larger throttle bodies and stuff. So we may see some big performance upgrades popping out to try and get these 300 and what's the VK, 350 or 320?
It's 390. It depends on which one. The Gen
not
1,
the DE, the ones that everybody's putting in.
It's 315, 305 to 315.
Yeah, so we'll probably see, dudes bumping their VKs up to 350 at least, I imagine, with a bunch of performance upgrades.
Well, let's see. Mr. Matt Benson, who is a good listener to the show, he said, with Gone out, where does that leave the brand? I think it leaves the brand. I think he fixed a bunch of problems, but I think it leaves the brand in a nice spot, man. The Japanese love their enthusiast cars, so maybe we'll see something like that.
Yeah, until we see who they're going to replace him with, we won't have a good idea of where the direction's going, in my opinion. They're going to have to replace him eventually, I think.
Yeah, I think
whether they replace the big, where he's like the director of both, or if they replace just a guy for Nissan and then just a guy for Mitsubishi. I don't know how they'll work that.
Well, I'm kind of excited because, the Mitsubishi partnership, that hasn't even taken fold yet. So, I mean, you're talking the next couple years of actually seeing the fruits of that come through. So that's big. And I do think that you're going to see Nissan back away from that 88 plan they had where it was 8% market share at 8% profitability. I think some of that's going to go away because it just wasn't real practical. Let's see who else we got here.
I'm kind of curious if that new all-wheel drive system that they got going on, is it the Altima, right?
Yeah.
If any of that was taken from Mitsubishi, if they used some of their tech.
It actually wasn't. It
really?
came from the Rogue, is my understanding. Let's see. There was Kody Fletcher, who you answered. Kody asked again, Gone Moab 19. Kody, as of right now, we are about 80%, or I am 80% for Gone. That can change because I've got plans in the works that could honestly overnight change that. So as of right now, I'm going to say yes, I'll be at Gone, but let's talk in a couple months, see what happens. Aaron Meyer, not Myers. What is the most underrated mod and the most overrated mod you can do to your truck? Okay, so overrated, I'm going to say, and I love this, the most overrated mod you can do to a truck is a snorkel. I really, really it's not practical. Even though I love the snorkels I put on my vehicles, here in the States, guys, snorkels are not for water. It's not for deep water crossings. If you get your water over your hood of your truck, you've got more issues than that snorkel's going to handle. A snorkel is for clean air only. It's basically a cold air intake. So that would be my most overrated. Underrated, I'm going to honestly say rock sliders. It's expensive, but most people don't want to put them on there for the first thing, and then they want to go off-road and they beat the side of their truck up. What do you got, Dan?
First off, I somewhat disagree with you on the snorkel. Having sunk 2 trucks in my life, Dave, I think a snorkel can be definitely a use for not sucking water into your engine and hydrolocking, as someone who did that twice. So I'm gonna yes, it pulls some decent cold air from up top, but however, I do somewhat disagree on that aspect. Underrated mods, I think, are aluminum protection. I don't think people quite understand the value of aluminum. Once I got aluminum skid plates and an aluminum bumper and realized how much lighter they were than steel, and how much protection they provide.
Because it's night and day.
Their
weight-wise, it's night and day.
Yeah, despite their lack of heaviness and/or what some say strength, especially for what I do and what I've done, I don't think people quite respect the amount of work that the truck has to do to overcome that weight, and how much weight affects gas mileage. It affects climbing. It affects so much stuff on your truck, and when you load your truck up so much, I sometimes I preach this when I'm out off-roading. I'm like, dude, you gotta lighten your truck up because it's never gonna get up that, because you got 400 and I've noticed a couple guys. I think Will, Will, is it Alexander? I can't remember
over
for
here
sure.
on the East Coast.
Out on the East Coast, yeah.
Yeah, Will.
After his last Gone trip, I know that he did a serious weight loss treatment on his truck.
I think he did some of that for the TV show that he was on.
Yeah, that as well. But I think he realized that he needed to start paring down some of his trail gear. Chema did the same thing. He said, "You know what? My truck is so full of tools and stuff. I need to realize what's necessary and what is overkill preparedness."
Yep.
So I think aluminum is a huge help for that as far as bumpers and skid plates are concerned. Overrated? Man, that's a good one. I think the big cone filters are a little overrated.
Yeah.
For bang for your buck, you know.
The K&N stuff, or
yeah, I mean, it gives you really cool sound sometimes, and you feel cooler, and maybe it gives you a horsepower or something like that. But I think bang for your buck. If I was going to spend $300 on an intake, like, you know, some kind of big cone intake like a Volant or something like that, I'd rather spend the $400 on an uprev.
Yeah. That I bought from Xterra Performance when you had it. Right when you first opened, I bought a cold air intake or whatever from it, and that was just the most ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I never put one on mine. I put a snorkel on mine just because I knew that, because the actual filter size isn't that much bigger than what's in the truck right now. If you're to pull the filter out and roll it in a circle, the the cone filter is slightly bigger, but for the most part, it's not actually giving you any performance beyond just a little bit more filtration. So I think that's a big misnomer. It sounds cooler, it makes it look cooler and whatnot, but bang for the buck, I think that's a little overrated.
Right. All right. So, and let's get to our last one. So, Mr. John Bain, he asked, he's looking to get into wheeling. He's got a Frontier Pro 4X, and he wants to do a little wheeling this year. He's, what are some of the essentials to bring with me? The Frontier is stock. He's been into four-wheeling with ATVs a bunch and used to do mudding and all that when he was younger. Doesn't plan on doing that with Frontier, just more of the, he's looking for repair kits, what rope maybe he should take, and so on. For rope-wise, I'm big on Bubba rope. I don't have any, but it's probably the best in the business. Ultimately, keep away from the hooks. If that tow rope has a hook on the end of it, one of the metal ropes, just keep away from it. They're dangerous. There's stuff on YouTube where you can see people getting their face knocked out of them, coming through windows. That's a bad idea. So make sure you have a tow point for the rope and definitely a good Bubba rope.
Yeah, when I read that, that's the first thing I thought is grab yourself a good Bubba rope. I'm a really big fan of synthetic shackles. I don't think they're 100% replacement for steel shackles, but I think they are kind of a must for a trail recovery gear kit. So I'd say have at least one or two synthetic shackles because they weigh basically nothing, and they're so clutch when it comes to really weird recoveries where you might need to yank the truck from some weird angle and you can't, there's not a tow point, or you need I remember I had a situation where I needed to have one truck hold a truck from going over the edge of a cliff while another truck winched him, so we had one truck, one truck 90 degrees from the truck that was going to go over and one truck that was in front of the truck. And so we had one truck keeping him from going over the side and the other truck pulling him up. And we couldn't get a shackle over the slider on the side, but the synthetic shackle was perfect to just slide right through the slider and hook up to the winch. And so that was, and there's maybe three other situations where, you come across some guy that's full, in the side of the road where they don't have an off-road vehicle. They just pulled over to try and change a tire or something, and they ended up getting stuck in some really soft dirt. And now you have to figure out how to tow them out without a vehicle with recovery points.
Or
and
snow.
So having a synthetic shackle, you can wrap it around so many different things that are really good.
Or just snow recovery. There's always, especially here on the East Coast.
There's so many things that you can do with a soft shackle that you can't do with this. I think a regular shackle is important. It's good to have, especially if you're doing weird stuff, where you're doubling up off of another truck and all they have is tow points. So it's not like you get rid of your regular shackles, but it's definitely something that I think are really important to have in your own vehicle.
And honestly, you can go to Harbor Freight has the little hitch receiver tow points. Those are great. Just anything like that is better than not having anything.
Yeah, have a tow point for sure.
If you're going to have a tire repair kit, have a
tire repair kit. You can get them for dirt cheap. Yeah,
have a way
just a plug kit. Right?
Yeah, but have a way to actually air up the vehicle. And there's I think it's called the Tsunami S50 or something. It's a little air pump that hooks to your battery. It's like $50. That's a great little air pump. There's better situations out there for you. Honestly, and don't wheel alone. I see it so many times. I'll see it on Facebook where people are out there. Hey, is anybody in this area? There's some kid or something stuck out in a mud hole. It just happens so many times.
If you're gonna wheel alone, you better have everything you need to wheel alone. You have to be very, very, very well prepared and appointed with double battery systems and
you better
super gnarly recovery gear with like road anchor or land anchors and stuff like that, which I don't suggest it, but if you're going to wheel alone, you better not be a novice, and you better have everything you need in order to do a self recovery, because if you don't, you're going to be taking a long ass walk.
And I know for me, like the Overlanders love Max Tracks, and there's a lot cheaper options out there than Max Tracks. And I'm not shitting on Max Tracks because it is a different quality. But I've honestly used my Max Tracks as a shovel to get out of mud. Stuff like that. You're getting into more pricey things to take with you, but honestly, you really never can be too prepared when you're out in the woods. Making sure you can communicate with the outside world, that would be a nice recovery thing, because something's always going to break. Let's see.
A good little Baofeng handheld ham band radio.
Which I'm getting, Danny. I got a ham radio.
I know. I noticed that, Dave.
I'm super excited. I haven't got my operator's license just yet, but that's coming. And
nice.
So the Xterra is going to have a ham radio, buddy. You guys have
classy.
After that trip we did with Rogue Overland, who's got
sold you, huh?
Yes. Did you hear how clear it was? Just the clear.
It's so clutch. It's night and day. It's the problems that you have with everybody having some kind of like a janky, weird, low, low signal radio. And when your radio is that weak, I guess you would say, it has to be perfectly tuned and almost illegal in order for it to be good. So everybody, not everybody ever has like a good radio. And so unless everybody has a perfect radio, usually trail comms turn to crap. Half the people can't hear you. Half the people can't transmit. And so having ham is just so much nice. It's just nicer.
And that's not crapping on CB. It's like dial up to cable modems. I mean, it's just the next step up.
It really is. It's just more power that it's not like you're not comparing CBs to ham. It's just ham is a better communication device. It's like, the difference between ham and cell phones, if you have cell phone reception, a cell phone is obviously better than a ham radio. So you don't compare them.
Unless you're wanting to talk about pygmy Indians in Moab or something like that.
That's true.
And what is your
can't stop listening.
What is your call sign, Danny?
KK6YCW.
There you go. If you can reach Danny, get a hold of him. But so Danny, that's all of our questions, man. I want to say Happy New Year, man. I mean, I know we're deep into January now, but I hope your family had a good holidays. I know you had some exciting news with your boy. Just all kinds of fun things, man. Hopefully next time we'll have Holden. We'll have the trifecta here again. But other than that, man, I think we've done it, man. It was exciting having Jim Bob here. He's on his Instagram. He's a man of many words, but live he's a man of few words. So it's kind of nice.
It's all right. Yeah. Hopefully next show I'll be chatting about the race truck in my garage and what I've been doing. So
you better do the podcast.
We'll try and hop on a little bit more often this year. We have a lot of plans to get a lot of work done.
I want the next podcast.
Behind the scenes.
I want you sitting in that truck when you do the next one.
I'm going to podcast from inside the truck. I promise.
There you go, guys. I mean, you like Danny said, he talked about this in January of 2015 when we started this show, and it's gonna not conclude, but it's gonna be.
It's gonna come to fruition, Dave.
And speaking of fruition, Danny, I've hinted around about a new podcast coming out for a while, but we've really dug deep into this now, and we've got something coming up, Danny.
We do. I don't know, Dave. I don't know if it's ready for the full announcement, and everybody. And I imagine 75% of the people stopped listening right now. So we'll do an announcement soon.
Well, that's called a teaser. So, but be on the lookout. If you follow us on some of the socials, you'll understand what we're talking about. But be on the lookout for something not completely new, but something more inclusive. So, Danny, let's take this one out, man. So from everybody here at the Nissan Nation podcast, and my buddy JR, who should be on the show soon because he won the chance to be on the show again. My buddy Holden over there selling trucks and just crushing them deals. He's crushing them lug nuts too. And so from everybody here at the Nissan Nation podcast, my name is David Boyd, and what are we, Danny?
We are out.
Peace, everybody. Love y'all.